Now, we're confined to what we actually have. We don't have everything. We do have 2 gobo books that are full of a bunch of different stuff. We usually have something that's at least close to something natural, like leaves or moonlight or windows, stuff like that. We might not have exactly what you guys want for class projects, but hopefully we have something that's at least got a few linear lines going through it that could help create this. So that would be our first light that we want to use, probably our brightest one, right? That one? What else could we use to kind of help create the essence of this photo? Some fill light from the other side? Yeah? What kind of fill light do we want to do? Do we want to go from directly the other side, or do we want to maybe do a different angle? You want to go a little more frontal on the fill? Yeah? I'm seeing some nods. So let's say we want to fill, so if this is our figure here, we want to fill a little bit from the other side. So this is our fill. What kind of color might we want to fill with for this one? Do you want to do a red fill? Because maybe what you're trying to do is kind of create that idea of what the glass is doing. I think that's acceptable. I think there's a couple of choices here. What I want you guys to know is there's no right or wrong for this first project. I just want you guys to make your best attempt. In something like this, we're not going to have that red glass full of liquid. Sorry. So the fill could be something like the red, and if you don't have the swatch book yet, you could just write red. Or perhaps you're just trying to fill, like you can see that glass clearly, right? It's not like it's a silhouette or a shadow. It could be that you fill that with no color, or you fill it with something else just so you have good visibility. And you could choose another source that's your red patterning, right? So you could do something like fill it with just red. You could fill it with no color. You could fill it with another color of your choice if you wanted to. Like maybe you look at how some of it's orangish coming through that reflection there, and maybe you want a little hint of that orange through there just to make it kind of a fun thing. So you could do something like that. The other thing you could do is you could leave it at that. You could have just 2 lights creating this. Or do you guys think maybe we want to add a third element here? Possibly. So one of the things you could do is you could say, let's say we didn't do this one red. Let's just say we did a little bit of fill to make it visible. But then we kind of wanted to make that red pattern or something like that. Maybe we choose to do the red over here. And maybe we choose to do a gobo. And we do something like, what does that remind you of? Maybe flame or something like that, a little bit. So we do a gobo that's like flame-like, or something that's flame or squiggly lines or something. But what we've just created is a color key, or a key that'll give us the idea for our plot, as if this were a scene that we are going to light. And so this is a great method for you guys to use when we get into our first projects. You'll sit down in your groups, you'll choose one of the photos, and then you guys will need to agree on kind of what your color key is, what your gobos are you're using, what light sources you're using to create that photograph. Does all this kind of make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
There you go.
There you go. Ian has recreated this photograph for us. That's our photograph, just without the gobos in it. So he's kind of created the essence, and what you're trying to go for is, you know, we're not creating the whole sunset, but we're creating, what is that sunset doing to somebody standing on that beach? Does it put that person in silhouette? Does it feel warm? Does it feel cold? Does it create the same feeling that the photograph is giving us? So hopefully that kind of gives you guys a good sense of what's going on for that first project. So you're kind of trying to achieve as close as you can to what that photograph is doing with light. All right. Just get my tab here, turn off the light for you. All right, so that's the color key. And again, this is not something I would ever turn in to anybody else, but it might help me generate my entire light plot. So I take that basic idea of, okay, I've got the one figure and I've lit them that way, but now I've got to figure out how to light the whole dang stage. The next thing you do is what's called a light plot, and this will be basically the same light plot that you guys have. So this is a good little simple example. you'll use this for the first and second project. When you guys are doing your first and second project, some of the things that I do is rather than doing the color key, if I have a copy like this of a plot that I've already done and I know where the lights are, I might write in the colors by hand on the plot. But since you guys are doing two projects, you might want to kind of write that on a separate piece of paper so it's not marked up for your second project. Okay, so we can see here, so this is a light plot. This would be a very simple light plot for only one area. One area being where our lighting figure is. So the idea here is we've got all those basic angles, and you can kind of see how they're labeled. So channel 1, the big number 1, down below the light, is the channel. So the big fat number is the channel number. The little number inside the unit, you guys can see, we call lighting instruments units as well, if I'm not clear about that. But the little number inside is what's called the unit number. That's merely a way to help organize and account for what light it is on the pipe. So you can see that channel 2 is unit 2 and channel 3 is unit 3. Those are all on the same light pipe, and it's just coincidental that their unit numbers happen to mimic their channel numbers. But if you go up to the next pipe, you can see that channel 4, big fat number 4, right in the middle it says unit number 1 again, doesn't it? Then as you go across, you can see that channel 5, in the middle it says unit 2. So basically, those little unit numbers are just a way to identify which light on the pipe it is. Because without having to know the channel, I can say to an electrician, hey, that middle pipe, unit number 4, I need to change the color. And they would know the middle pipe here, unit number 4, they would just go change the color in that one. So that's a way for the paperwork to be kind of accountable. And what we end up doing is we kind of make spreadsheets of what this light plot is. And that kind of gets into, I'll talk about it in just one second, that gets into our paperwork that we talked about, the channel hookup, instrument schedule, all that kind of stuff has to do with things like the channels that are written here, the unit numbers that are written here, and the pipes that they're hanging on. What else do I want to talk about? Center line. We talked a little bit about center line, apron line, and all that kind of thing in our vocab earlier last week. You can see that this